All right, good morning, good evening, and welcome to our fifth MET Masterclass, where today we're going to be talking about MET Speaking Task 5. My name is Emily Clifford. I'm the Academic Services Manager here at Michigan Language Assessment, and I'm once again joined by Mr. Philip Aitona. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Certainly, Emily. My name is Philip Aitona. I'm a lecturer at 9.09er Review and Tutorial Center. And it's always a pleasure joining MET to help you guys prepare a little bit better for your exams.
Thank you very much for giving up your time today, and thank you to everyone for joining us. I know you're all very busy people, so we are going to, without further ado, get started talking about the speaking task 5. Here's an outline for our session. So we'll give you a very quick overview of MET speaking. We'll look in more detail at speaking task 5. We will check out 3 model answers so you can see how you can progress from your first ideas into a really strong answer. We'll give you some tips for your preparation and share some useful links for other resources and ways you can contact 9.09er for a review session. And we will hopefully have time for some questions at the end. So this is a quick overview of MET and all of the different sections on the test. For today, we are once again focusing on the speaking section, which is the final part of MET. It is delivered on the computer, so you will see the responses on screen, the tasks on screen, and you will hear them read aloud, and you record your responses. There are 5 tasks in total, and the whole thing lasts about 10 minutes. And we are going to be focusing very closely on task 5. So this is the final part of MET speaking, and you will be asked to provide convincing arguments on your point of view about a prompt that you are given.
And it's important to remember that you only have 90 seconds to deliver your response in this part of the test. That's not a lot of time, so you need to be thinking quickly for you to respond well to this last part.
Absolutely. And because this is the final part of MET speaking, it is more challenging than the other tasks to complete, but you do have 90 seconds to do it, which may sound like a lot, but when you're coming up with ideas and you're speaking, it will probably go quite quickly. So the tasks will be about, giving your own opinion and providing these convincing arguments, and you will be told the audience that you're speaking to. So there will be a person named in the prompt, a person of some authority in the situation, and your response should be addressed to that person. So let's have a look at an example and see how long 90 seconds really is. So, Philip, would you do the honors of reading this one out?
Course, a company needs a new manager and has decided to only consider applications from people with more than 15 years of work experience. Some employees think this is a bad idea. I am on the hiring committee. Tell me what you think about this and try to convince me to agree with you. You have 90 seconds to talk. You should say as much as you can. Begin speaking now.
Thank you. So I'll start the timer. While the timer is going, please feel free to let us know what you're thinking in the chat. Ask questions. Let us know what kinds of things you might talk about if this were your question. And then we'll look forward to hearing some of your ideas before we look at the models. So here we go.
Could you share some of your thoughts that you came up with during this time? Ideally, you were able to give it a go. Could you share in the chat what some of the things that you were able to come up with?
We've got one comment from Reg saying that requiring, excuse me, at least 15 years of experience guarantees competence and less training would be required.
Wow, that's a pretty smart comment. I would have to agree. The And I think that's beautiful because it responds perfectly with the prompt. The I think Thank you, Reg. You understood that the situation is you're talking to the hiring committee, and this person would want reasons why it would be good to hire people with that amount of employees. Mm, Anna has a different idea. Anna says, I disagree because the exact time spent in the company will not tell you exactly how competent the employee is. What do you think about that, Emily?
I think that's a very good point. If you're just talking about years, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're very competent. It does. I disagree that it guarantees competence. You can do something for a long time, but there might be someone who's a better fit for the role. Um, so I think this is a great topic to generate lots of different opinions. And I think it's important to note it doesn't matter for your score. It doesn't matter what side of the argument you sit. You can agree, you can disagree. The task here is for you to explain what do you think and try to convince the person on the hiring committee
Mm,
to agree with you. So it's great that we have a couple of different opinions. You're not going to be scored on what your opinion is. You're scored on how well you express that opinion. How convincing are you? And how deeply have you thought about the topic? How many reasons have you given? Um, Expanding your answer with reasons and explanations and explaining why you feel that way.
indeed. And I'd like to point out that that process is going to be very quick because immediately after the question is read, you would have to, in a few seconds, give your start talking. So this is spontaneous and live, and you really would be needing lots of practice to be able to get it right under such pressure.
Yes, definitely. Practicing with a timer is really important because you've got 90 seconds and you need to fill that time with language. If you're sitting there silently, and you're just thinking, then the raters don't have any language to mark.
Mm,
So try to keep talking for the full 90 seconds, um, fill it with ideas and give lots of reasons and explanations and examples if you can,
indeed.
to try and develop your answer. Should we have a look at what the prompt is actually sort of asking you to do here? Because in task five, they will follow a similar, they won't be the same, but they will follow a similar structure. So usually they will start with a situation. In this example, a company needs a new manager, and they're only going to consider applications from people with more than 15 years of work experience. So there's your situation. It will usually be something that can be seen from different perspectives. So there might be, arguments for or against. Um, and then the prompt will usually give you some indication. So in this example, some people think this is a bad idea. Doesn't say why, but suggests that there are two sides to this. Then there will be a sentence that tells you who you are speaking to. So this is usually a person with some authority, a decision maker, or someone who has some say in the decision. Um, or it could be a person who has authority over you. So perhaps you're speaking to your boss or a teacher or, a school principal. Usually it will be a person in charge of the situation, and you need to pay attention to this and adjust your language to match the person you're speaking to. So usually that means you will need to speak a little bit more formally than you would maybe speaking with a friend. And then usually the final sentence will say something along these lines, tell me what you think and try to convince me to agree with you. So you need to be expressing your opinion in a formal way, and like we've said, make sure you give lots of reasons why you think that way. This could include positives or negatives. It could include maybe why you disagree with the opposite view. And
Mm.
one way to sort of, I guess, start your thinking is decide what do you think? Maybe think of some pros and some cons of the situation, and then decide where you stand. Do you agree or disagree, and why?
Although I would like to highlight at the same time that you don't need to figure it all out before you start talking. If you have an idea, start talking. That's because time is running. So maybe later on in the middle of your speech, you come up with another idea. Then that's when you start talking about that. But you don't need to like figure it all out in your head before you begin because time is ticking and you would want to maximize those 90 seconds as much as you can.
Absolutely, a great point. Thank you. Let's have a look at some of these model answers and see how you can get started when the timer starts. And we can look at the positives and negatives.
Mm,
Shall I read this one out and then you do the next one?
that makes sense.
Okay. So I think it's a good idea. I think this because there are many advantages to hiring people with a lot of experience. People with a lot of experience can be experts in the company, so they are very good at their job. That means they can train very fast because they already know everything they need. They worked for 15 years already, so they don't need a lot of help for their job so the other people can do other things. This can be good for a company because they don't need to spend time training the new people. Some people think this is a bad idea because younger people can also have new ideas and new ways for doing things that can be good too. I think you can choose the best solution for your company. Thank you. So, Philip, what do you think of this one?
It responds to the task, first of all, which is good. Uh, some repetition, though, when it comes to the words like experience, company, need. So, somewhat limited vocabulary and repeated sentence structures. And the entire response seems less cohesive. It sounds like bullet points when it's read out like that. It's good though that this response incorporates not only why they like the point of view, but also why they dislike the other point of view, which is or rather why or rather saw the opposite side, which means that they were exploring both sides, and their conclusion was that you choose what's best for you. uh, so like delegating the final decision to the decision maker, which I think is valid, right?
I would say it's not necessarily convincing, though. One thing that stands out to me in this one is there's no real convincing language or attempts to persuade. It's more, like you said, Philip, it's more like a list of reasons. It's more like bullet points rather than really convincing this hiring committee or member of the hiring committee to agree with their point of view. The language is not very strong. It's quite simple. There is quite a lot of repetition, as you mentioned. Um, I think there's room to improve this in terms of maybe explaining the reasons a bit more, using some more convincing language, um, addressing the hiring committee. So, it's really clear that the person is answering the prompt.
Indeed, indeed.
We take a look at the next one, or did you
Uh,
have anything?
I think we should look at the next one.
All right, and don't forget, for those of you watching at home, please let us know what you think as well. We would love to hear your comments and maybe let us know what you think could be done better. Maybe there are sentences that could be improved. Maybe you have a better idea. So don't be shy. And also ask us questions, of course, if there's anything that you'd like us to talk about specifically. Here's
Oh,
number two. Oh, yeah.
oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention in the previous response, in the second to the last sentence, there's a passing reference to the hiring committee. I think you can choose the best solution for your company. So there's that brief reference. But I think the second response may be doing a bit better job at that. Shall we take a
That's
listen?
a great catch. I'm sorry I missed that. Yes. Do you want to go ahead and read this one, Philip?
Would love to. Good afternoon. I have heard about the company's plan to only consider applicants with more than 15 years work experience for the new management position, and I disagree with this idea. There are some benefits that hiring very experienced employees for this position can bring to an organization. For example, more experienced applicants will bring a high level of expertise to the job and be able to do complicated tasks well. They will probably be faster and easier to train for the new job because of their experience also. However, limiting applicants to only those with a certain level of experience could be a disaster for our company. There are many valuable potential employees who have less than 15 years experience, and they should not be discounted just because they have not had a chance to get this experience yet. Someone who has less than 15 years experience can still be an expert in their subject and have many great, fresh, new ideas. I strongly urge you to reconsider your plan to limit who can apply for this position, as we could miss out on a great employee just because they do not meet this criteria. I hope you will consider my request. Thank you. Hmm, much longer, much longer for
It
one.
is longer. It would definitely fill that 90 seconds.
Indeed. And oh, and by the way, I would like to point out that it's different reading a response versus coming up with things on the spot. Because you would be inventing the language as you're going along. So some hesitations would probably be not the end of the world. You you are making it up as you go along. So the speed with which it would be good for you to be talking may not be like the same speed that I was talking, that I was using earlier. So that so I just wanted to say that. What do you think about this response, Emily?
Well, first off, I just want to say that's a fantastic point and thank you for mentioning it. Yes, of course, while you're speaking live, coming up with all of this information on the spot, um, of course, hesitations, pauses while you're thinking is going to happen. Um, with hesitations, it's part of the rating scale, which you can check on our website. If Riley can post the link for us for the speaking rating scale, um, you'll see some hesitation is natural and actually quite normal when you're speaking. So don't worry too much if you pause for a second or two. It's okay. Don't worry that you're going to lose lots of points for that because you won't. It's more about just making sure you're talking consistently at a natural pace. And if you have to pause for a few seconds while you're thinking, that's okay. Um, in terms of this response, I think this is clearly better than the first one. It has a good, solid introduction. Good afternoon is a bit more formal. Um, it rephrases the prompt a little bit. It does still use some of the language from the prompt, but it shows that the person has understood what they're being asked to talk about, and it clearly gives their position. I disagree with this idea. And then it goes quite nicely into talking about the reasons why this could be a good thing and then why it's not necessarily a good thing. Um, he uses transitions, however, and then talks about the other side. Limiting applicants to only those with a certain level of experience could be a disaster, which is great, convincing language. It's more persuasive of this person's point of view than the first one. Which leads me into the vocabulary. I think this response has some very good very precise vocabulary that is relevant to the context, expertise, potential, discounted. There's lots of good language here, and the language is more formal overall. Like I said, it starts with good afternoon. Thank you. I hope you will consider my request. So it's clear that this response is addressing a person of authority. It's clearly addressed to somebody, and it's not just a general response about a situation, that they're thinking about. It's directed at somebody and is aiming to be convincing.
I strongly urge you. That's pretty persuasive. I agree with everything Anthony said.
And of course, please let us know if you agree or not. If there's anything you'd like to add about these responses, please don't be shy. We don't have a huge amount of time left, so we'll move on to model answer three. But if you're thinking of something, please let us know in the chat. All right, here's the third one. Who will read this one?
Your turn, I think.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my perspective with the committee. I understand why years of experience might seem like an important requirement for a position in management. However, I strongly believe that strictly requiring a high number of years of experience is not always the best approach. First, some candidates may have gained strong skills and knowledge in a shorter amount of time through learning, internships, or working in fast-paced environments. When we only look at experience in terms of years, we might miss out on people who are talented, motivated, and able to bring fresh ideas to our organization. Additionally, less experienced employees are often more adaptable to new technologies and ways of working. They are usually eager to learn and develop and can often be more open-minded and creative when solving problems. Of course, experience is valuable, but in my opinion, we should focus on finding candidates with the right skills and mindset rather than just counting the years on their resume. This way, we can build a stronger, more diverse team that will help our organization succeed in the future. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. The first thing that jumps to mind is the nuance that the shades of meaning that this response is able to depict. Very much much finer detail in the reasoning. And I appreciated how fresh counting the years on their resumes as a paraphrase for years of experience. That was a good break from the responses that we've been hearing so far.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good vocabulary here. And I do think we can say it's more persuasive than the other two. Keeping in mind the try to convince me to agree with you part of the prompt. There are lots of examples. It offers a solution and uses really good transitions first. Additionally, of course, experience is valuable, but in my opinion, so I think this is quite a sophisticated response with lots of good language. There's lots of positives, lots of good things we can say about this one. If you're watching this at home on YouTube later, you might like to pause this and you can look in more detail at all of the language and the way it's been structured to try and help you when you're practicing and preparing for your own MET speaking. So let's talk about how to do that. How can you prepare for MET speaking? What kinds of activities can be done, and what resources can you use? So we've said a couple of times through this webinar already, but pay attention to the audience that is named in the task and make sure that you adjust your language accordingly. If it's a person in authority over you, such as a manager or a teacher or a principal, adjust your language and make sure you're speaking more formally than in the other tasks where you're just talking about your own experience, your own opinions, and there's not a specific person named in the prompts.
Indeed. Uh, shall I do this? Watch good
Sure.
examples of speeches to see how others present a viewpoint in a convincing way. It's nice to see samples of role models of how they do it. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can get good lessons from those speeches that maybe you yourself find persuasive. Um, there are lots of good examples on the internet for that.
Yep, absolutely. Always, it's great to learn from other examples. You can take note of interesting language that you hear or how the argument has been structured, how they transition from different points, and how they add examples. And you can use all of these techniques in your own practice and in your real test when the day comes. Um, I'd like to mention about making sure you keep your response focused. This is true of all MET speaking tasks. Make sure you're talking about exactly what you have been asked to talk about and don't start talking about something that's unrelated. So keep your response focused on the topic, provide plenty of details to back up your point of view. The more examples, the more reasons you can give, the better. Finally, some useful language to practice. It would be a good idea to learn some persuasive language, some persuasive techniques, formal language for addressing this person of authority, language for expressing an opinion, and perhaps some rhetorical devices. Philip, do you have any examples of rhetorical devices we can give our audience?
Have you perhaps there are lots of rhetorical devices like when you repeat words. Generally you don't want to repeat words because that shows limited vocabulary, but there are certain techniques where you repeat words with purpose to emphasize them or to show differences. I invite you to discover the wonders of rhetorical devices. There are lots of them on that.
That was a great explanation. Here are some resources you can use to help you prepare as well. Like we've said, practicing the timing, practicing these responses is really, really key to success in MET speaking. You've got some digital sample tests on our website. There are some speaking example videos you can download and watch on YouTube. A study guide with tips and advice. So you can scan that QR code or go to that link and check out the Michigan Language Assessment Preparation Resource Library. And I would also like to direct you to our friends at 9.09er, Philip.
Yes, and if you would like to enrich your preparation for your MET, 9.09er offers live lectures, a fun community where you can reach out to your fellow learners so that you can learn together. We also offer coaching one-on-one so that you can get feedback on your performance that is customized based on what you did so that you can identify your strengths, which is always nice to know, as well as your weaknesses to provide you with direction so that you know the next step that you need to take so that you accelerate your progress in getting ready for it. If you have any questions, our email is just there. Check us out.
I definitely recommend you do so. Nothing beats practice and feedback when you're preparing for a speaking test. Um, This is the last MET Masterclass on speaking. So if you missed the others, they're on YouTube. So please do go check them out and learn about the other parts of MET speaking. And then upcoming in August, we have a session about listening and reading. Then on the 14th of August, Dr. Fernando Flurkin and Philip will be going through MET Writing Task 1. And on August 21st, myself, Philip, and my colleague Tiffany from Michigan Language Assessment will be talking you through MET Writing Task 2. So please visit that link and register if you haven't already. And I hope to see you at future sessions.
Take care, everybody. It was good working
Thanks.
with you.
Thank you so much for joining today. Goodbye.